Hey guys, we are going to go over lesson 62. Lesson 62 is complex roots of quadratic equations. All right, and this is going to be lesson 62. All right, so remember with our quadratic equations, all right, that we can have something like x squared plus x minus 2 equals 0. And I can solve that by factoring. I get the x and the x, 2, 1, positive 2, negative 1. So x equals 1 or negative 2. Those are the two values for x that will solve that equation. Okay, other problems are not in that same form. Other problems I'm not able to factor. So with those that I'm not able to factor, I'm going to complete the square. You know, I would have something, I'm looking for the other problems to be in this form right here. Okay, so that there with that, I can take the square root of both sides. I get x minus 2 equals positive or negative the square root of 3. And then x equals 2 plus or minus the square root of 3. Thinking about this over here, just a little backstory and backtracking on that. Think if I have the difference of two squares. If I have x squared minus 4 equals 0. Okay, think that this x squared minus 4, when I factor this out, this is going to be x plus 2 and x minus 2, right? So my solutions there for x is going to wind up equaling positive and negative 2, right? Okay, remembering here, this x squared minus 4 is also 2 squared, right? So I could rewrite this as x squared equals 2 squared. All right, so looking at that, when I take the square root of both sides, okay, when I work through this x squared equals 2 squared, x squared equals 2 squared is the same thing as x squared equals negative 4. And so what x equals is x is going to equal positive or negative 2. All right, that's why up here, looking at this right here, I've got this on this side that's squared. I have this over here on this side. I take the square root of this side and the square root of that side, and this is going to be that positive and negative, just like this right here is going to be the positive and negative. Okay, the square root of x squared is x. The square root of 2 is 2, but this is going to be positive and negative. All right, the square root of this x minus 2 squared is just x minus 2. The square root of 3 is the square root of 3, but then it's going to be positive and negative, and this is where we see that and where that positive or negative comes from. Okay, just to go back and reiterate that. Okay, so say we're dealing with this type of problem that we're not able to factor like we were able to up there. All right, so we've got x squared plus 4x minus 2 equals 0. Okay, I'm not going to be able to take any of the factors of 2 and create 4. Okay, so instead I'm going to have to complete the square. So x squared plus 4x equals 2. All right, take half of now I'm going to deal with this middle term. So I take the 4, multiply it by 1/2. It's going to give me 2. And then I square that 2 is going to give me 4. Okay, so I'm going to add 4 to this side, and I'm going to add 4 to this side. Okay, excuse me. So this over here, think about the fact that this right here is going to be x, 2, 2, plus, plus, okay? So the factors, when we've got this quadratic equation right here, we've completed the square so that I know my two factors are just squares. These factors become the square root of the first term is x, the square root of the last term is 2. Okay, so that's all you need to do there. Okay, so this x plus 2 squared equals 6. All right, I'm going to take that square root of both sides. I get the x plus 2 over here equals plus or minus the square root of 6. X equals negative 2 plus or minus the square root of 6. Okay, so we've just run through that. This is how I have used completing the square to solve for x. So my solutions for x are x minus 2, negative 2 plus the square root of 6, negative 2 minus the square root of 6. I can plug both of those values into this equation for x and it will work. Okay. So now let's look at some complex numbers. Remember, the complex numbers have the I in them. All right, so if I've got 4 plus 5i, this is the imaginary number. So this is a complex number because it's got a portion of it that is imaginary. And remember, we talked about the fact that if I've got negative the square root of 4, that equals negative 2. Negative 2 does have a place on the number line, right? But if I've got the square root of 4, there is no number that I can multiply by itself and get negative 4. That doesn't work. So what we've done is we've taken that negative and we could rewrite this as 4, the square root of 4 times the square root of negative 1. And the square root of negative 1 equals I. So now this is going to be the square root of 4. I, which is going to be 2i. Okay, remember that imaginary number. So if I've got the square root of negative 15, or say the square root of negative 11, because that's what I wound up writing, we would write this as the square root of 11i. And that I is not under the square root sign. All right? So let's work here with a problem. All right, I have negative x plus 3x squared plus 5 equals 0. I want to rewrite this such that my x squared is first. So I have 3x squared minus x plus 5 equals 0. All right, I want to get rid of this right here. So let's divide everything by 3. So I get x squared minus 1/3 x plus 5/3 equals 0. Okay, I'm not going to be able to find necessarily factors of 5/3 that I'm going to be able to combine together in order to get 1/3. And even if I could, that's a lot of math to have to figure that out potentially. It would be easier to just complete the square because I don't know for sure if I could find the factors. So let's just complete the square. All right, so I have x squared minus 1/3 x. I'm going to move this 5/3 over here as a negative 5/3. Okay, I have to find the value to put in here. So let's take this 1/3, multiply it by 1/2 is going to give us 1/6. Square that is going to give us 1/36. Okay? So let's put this, we're going to add in this 1/36 here. All right, so now we're going to take this right here and find what is the factors of this. Okay, so remember I told you square root of the x is x, square root of the 1/36 is 1/6. Okay, this needs to be negative, therefore this is going to be negative. All right, this is going to be squared. Up here, this negative 5/3 is going to become 60/36, negative 60/36. So when I combine that with a positive 1/36, I'm going to get negative 59/36. All right, take the square root of both sides. I get x minus 1/6 equals plus or minus the square root of negative 59/36. Okay, we're going to have to deal with this stuff right here. We've got this 36 down here. We have a radical in the denominator we can't leave there, and we've got this negative sign we can't leave there. So we've got the x. Let's go ahead and move the 1/6 over. We've got the positive and negative. Okay, so we're going to have the square root of 59 in the top. The square root of 36 in the bottom is just going to be 6, and that negative sign is going to come out here as an I. So this is going to be my answer here. Okay. All right, let me see. I have another one here. Let's just run through this other example real quick. All right, if I've got negative 2x plus 5x squared equals 3. Let's go ahead and put it in its standard form. So I have 5x squared minus 2x. Oh, this over here needs to be a negative 3. So it's going to move back over here as a positive 3 equals 0. All right, we're going to complete the square. Actually, no, we're not going to. Yeah, we are going to complete the square, but the first thing we're doing is we're going to deal with that 5. X squared minus 2/5 x plus 3/5 equals 0. All right, now let's move that 3/5 out. X squared minus 2/5 x equals negative 3/5. All right, I'm going to take that negative 2/5, multiply it by 1/2. It's going to give me 2/10, right? I'm going to square that is going to give me, when I square that, I'm going to get the 4 here and the 100 here. Okay, and I can reduce that down to 1/25, right? Okay, so this is what I'm going to add to both sides. I'm going to add in here this 1/25. Over here, I'm going to add in 1/25. Okay, let's find what is the factor of this that's being squared. It's going to be x over 1/5. Because this is negative, this is going to need to be negative. Okay, this 3/5 is going to be negative 15/25. So the negative 15/25 and the positive 1/25 is going to give me negative 14/25. All right. Oh, and we're going to also at the same, oh, this is squared. Sorry, I left them all squared off there. Okay, let's take the square root of both sides. X minus 1/5 equals plus or minus the square root of negative 14/25. And then here we're going to move the 1/5 over, isolate our x. The 1/5 goes over as positive 1/5, plus or minus. We're going to have that deal with that negative sign. It's going to come out here as an I. Have the square root of 14 in the numerator and just a 5 down there in the denominator. Okay? All right, that is going to wrap up lesson 62 for us.